Are you willing to fight?
Help us save the Oasis.
Hello and welcome to Mojo at the Movies, where we talk about recent movies with our resident movie expert, Eric Cohen. Today we are going to answer the question, is Ready Player One living up to the hype? Eric, you saw it last night.
I did, and you read the book, right?
I read the book.
So you get the hype.
I get what it's about.
Okay. So, well, we're starting from a place where, this is all about pop culture, right?
It's literally like what I would say, the theme of the book is that all of that useless pop culture knowledge that you have accrued is not only important, it's the most important thing in the world. You will save the world with your knowledge of 80s culture.
And yeah, this movie really plays right into that. It is everything that WatchMojo is about. Like, also, as I was watching, I was thinking, boy, every single one of our videos, or it's all addressed here. So basically, if you're into 80s culture, if you're into video games, if you're into Easter eggs, there are characters in this movie who are called Gunters. They're Easter egg hunters.
Easter egg hunters, which is really important because that sounds kind of obscene, just
right.
naked right off the bat.
So does it live up to the hype? I would say yes.
Really?
I would say, there's going to be some backlash, and it's interesting because, gamers are certainly proud of, the gaming universe.
Their culture, yeah.
But I wonder, and geeks are proud of geek culture, but I wonder if sometimes, you feel that Hollywood or the man has co-opted your thing. And so is that going to happen here? Is there going to be some backlash?
Have we reached that sort of tipping over point where none of this stuff that we considered the realm of geeks anymore is now like completely spilled over into like mainstream culture?
Exactly. And so I guess we should break down what the movie is about. Basically,
right.
It's the future, it's 2045, and life in regular reality is can be pretty bleak.
Crappy.
So everyone is living in this, or spending time in this VR type game called the Oasis, which was created by a developer who's kind of like a Steve Jobs type, but even more eccentric and weird, like Bob Ross meets Steve Jobs kind of thing.
With a little bit of Shigeru Miyamoto thrown in.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And he created this world, and everybody is living in it, but when he died, he left all these Easter eggs as to how to basically get control of this world and be the executive in charge of what happens in the Oasis.
Right.
And so there's a kid, as happens in most Spielberg movies, who's, he's like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to win. He's played by Ty Sheridan, and he kind of gets his gang together, and they seek a way to win the game so that the big corporate villain doesn't gain control.
Because the corporate saps, they're looking for the Easter eggs too, so that they can get control of Oasis and like turn it into a big corporate money-making scheme.
Right.
Right.
Now the story itself, at least on film, I don't know how it played out in the book, but on film, the story is pretty much almost secondary to all the references, all the 80s references, and which are lovingly rendered by Spielberg. I mean, some of it is self-referential. You have the dinosaur from Jurassic Park,
nice.
And you have. Well, it's not that he did Kong, but there is the DeLorean as well. So he did produce
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future, and this movie literally is all about Back to the Future, right? Because it's looking forward. It's all about virtual reality and how we interact with the digital world. But it's using this guy's brain, and he was pop culture obsessed in the 80s. So it's using all these references to kind of launch you forward.
Okay, so one thing that I find a lot of people get hung up on in the book is that the references are just too much. Now, when you're combing through a book, it takes a long time to just get through all that and actually get to actual plot points, because you're like, okay, I got my DeLorean and it's kitted out like Kit from Knight Rider, and then I've got these special sneakers on. Do the references get kind of tiresome in the movie? Because I feel like it might get it kind of exhausting.
Well, yeah, you know what? I mean, everything from Iron Giant to Chucky to Star Wars. I mean, I don't know how they got the Star Wars licenses for a lot of this stuff, but I guess Spielberg has the cash. Harley Quinn and the Joker and Overwatch and Lara Croft, and these things are all over the place. But it's interesting because Spielberg said apparently that the references are what you see through the side windows of the vehicle, and the story is what's in front of you as you drive through the movie.
Okay. That's
says
brilliant.
That. But I didn't necessarily feel, I was way too distracted looking at the references than concentrating on the story.
Well, it's a pretty scenic tour, I guess.
It's beautiful. It's literally an orgy of all the hallmarks of my youth, which is a weird thing to say just in and of itself. But it's just that the story kind of suffered. I felt that the beat by beat points of this story kind of became background. They became the stuff on the side, and you're more interested in looking for however many references you can. And you know, not to mention, it's also more than half the movie takes place in a virtual world, so it kind of feels a little, you're removed a little bit from it. It's a little bit like Avatar in that sense.
Do you think that someone would enjoy this more if they get all of the references, or do you think you can actually possibly enjoy it more if you're sort of in the middle, where you don't necessarily know everything? Because then you can kind of sit back and actually enjoy the story and then pick up maybe 50%, 40%.
I would say that's exactly where you want to be. You don't want to be concentrating too hard. I would go back and watch it again just as an exercise to pick out the references. But I think if you stripped out all the references, the story itself wouldn't hold up as well on its own.
Well, this is again coming from the book, so it might have been different, but the references were key to understanding how to get the Easter eggs.
Yes, and that much I appreciate. You know, I love the fact that you need to really work through this guy's memories of the 80s, you know, late 70s, 80s culture. And in fact, in the movie, his whole life can be accessed through the archives of his mind. And that, you know, there were some cool concepts in there, not to mention, you know, the love story and the stories of friendship and messages that, you know, things are great in the online world, but you also have to live in reality. So it had all the, you know, all the elements of a Spielberg movie, but he basically went on record and said, this is not a film, this is a movie. And I made this thinking that I'm going to sit beside you as you're in the theater eating popcorn, not as if I'm the director that's telling you what to watch.
So he's already like, all right, don't take this too seriously. Like, come with a bucket of popcorn, not
a
notepad.
It's a popcorn movie through and through and through.
Okay, so you think that people can enjoy it in that sense?
Yeah, and you know, I'm not a gamer per se, certainly not as much as you are. And I was thinking how much gamers would really appreciate this game, because there are a lot of references not only to games and to Easter eggs and to, you know, but lifestyle. There's lifestyle references to gamer life. At one point, you know, you're seeing the stacks. This is where people live in
stacks of mobile homes.
Yeah, but inside their mobile homes, they all have their headsets and you know, there just seems to be, or the way they interact. You know, they haven't met. They're best friends, but they haven't met in the real world. Just all these things that are kind of referencing how, you know, where things are going in our digital age.
Interesting. So you think, if you were a film buff that was looking to analyze this, do you think you could use this as kind of like a reflective lens on contemporary culture? Sorry, that sounded really heady right there for a second.
No, but I mean, there's certainly, there's a message there, as with most Spielberg movies. I think a lot of the visuals get in the way of really appreciating that message, but on the whole, it's a fun movie. You know, last week we reviewed Pacific Rim Uprising.
Right.
And the idea was, it's a popcorn movie, it's fun to see, but this is the next level of fun to see. I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't tell anyone, don't go see this is not a good time. It's just maybe not, you know, maybe the story itself is less important than
the spectacle.
Exactly.
Which I think, you know, I think the book kind of follows that anyway, so people who are fans of the book will probably be happy with that, just because it really is about just listing all these amazing things that he knows about and all these things that Halliday knew about, and like coming together as your buddies to stop the evil corporation.
And there is one, I won't say it, I won't ruin anything, but one of my favorite villains, or one of my favorite scary characters from 80s movies makes an appearance. I won't say who. Let's leave it at that.
All right, well, we're not going to ruin that today on film, on camera,
on
video, whatever. We're on the internet.
On
That's
movies.
where we are. Mojo on the movies. Here we go.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
The oasis, the world's most important economic resource.
It's nothing less than a war for control of the future.